God, my fucking voice sounds awesome. I'm gonna be so shitty today.
Somebody's got a cold.
Yeah. But we'll soldier on, because we're nerds, and that's what we do.
The truth comes out.
Welcome to Saturday at Derek's. My name is Derek Hansen.
And I am the mildly ill Mike Balzer.
By mildly ill, he means he's ill. He's got a license for it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, our Fat Beats guy isn't here to provide them. Speaking of which, I'd just like to thank Boris for providing us with a theme song now, so we can go and retool the old episodes and see if we can get the show out a bit more.
Yeah, thanks, Boris.
Anyway, on to this week's subject. Marvel has announced that they are going to go ahead with the new Secret Wars project and essentially, cram the regular Marvel universe and the Ultimates universe together into one amalgamated universe.
I don't think it's just those two. I think it's like all their universes they're going to take chunks of. Because they're going to use some of the Age of Apocalypse and Age of Ultron stuff as well, and have that stuff in there.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a huge, but mostly it's going to be the Ultimates and
the regular Marvel
and the regular universe.
Yeah. Interesting. If nothing else, it's actually probably going to get me out of the house to go to my very first free comic day ever.
Yeah. It is interesting. I'm kind of bummed about it because I've got 80 years of Marvel history that I know, and
now it's all just going to be
reset.
Useless?
Yeah. I don't know why they feel like they need to do it. I mean, they do have multiple universes. The only thing I could think of is that they want to combine them so that it's more like the movie universe and easier to follow.
Maybe. I've also seen the intriguing but slightly conspiracy theory crazy guy notion that part of Secret Wars is going to be wiping out the mutants. And so that they can deny Fox any more material for their mutant movies.
Yeah. As a primary mutant fan, I don't like that.
Oh no! I came into comic books through the Uncanny X-Men. That the Outback X-Men. That's. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's my jam.
Yeah, I mean, we got into the Marvel comics like hardcore, like right before they fought the Adversary.
Yeah,
I think the issue I first got, it was like right after Mutant Massacre and right before the Adversary, where the Forge Storm Love things started coming on, and then they had to help Forge throw the Adversary into the Siege Perilous.
Yep, and then they ended up going through the Siege Perilous and then getting spit out into the Outback, and that was my group of X-Men.
Yeah,
that's what, when somebody says X-Men, that's the group I think of.
Yeah,
Colossus, Dazzler, Rogue, Wolverine, Havoc. Yeah, those guys, and when they finished all that up and turned Psylocke Japanese, and half the X-Men went back to the regular world, and suddenly Scott Summers is in charge, and he's a douche, and
sorry, Scotty.
Yeah, no, we love our Scotty. The guy you're named after is a douche, which is gonna. Next weekend at game day, that's probably going to end up being another argument with his dad.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
and good humored arguments, by the way. It's not, spitting and screaming and fighting, but it's very spirited comic book debates.
Yeah, of all the X-Men he could have named him after.
Yeah.
Why Scott Summers?
I don't know.
But, I guess he's a Cyclops fan. Somebody has to like people like that.
I guess. Scotty, you should have been named Logan, dude.
Or Piotr.
Right? That's, even just Peter. American it up. That's okay. That's fine. I'm still going to get you drunk and paint you silver on your 21st birthday.
But yeah, I mean, I'm not unexcited about it, but I'm not super excited about it either. I guess DC's been doing all right with their New 52.
Yeah, but DC was a lot more fucked up when they decided to do that.
Yeah.
And DC had like, 3 reboots in less than 10 years?
Yeah.
It was a fucking mess over at DC for quite a while. And even with the New 52, and I have liked a lot of the stuff that came out of that, there are things that bummed me out. Like, I'm one of the 3 people that actually liked the Stephanie Brown Batgirl, and I was really unhappy that suddenly Barbara Gordon's magically not crippled anymore.
Yeah.
That shit didn't make sense to me, and I thought the new Batgirl character was just coming into her own, and I liked Barbara Gordon being like more of the mentor figure to her. So that it kind of sucked. And that weird Batman franchise thing was strange.
Yeah.
But, and I wonder what they're going to do now, because there are some really interesting tertiary characters in Marvel. Like Spider-Gwen has become strangely popular, and I've read some of the books, and she's actually a pretty cool pseudo Spider-Man character. So, and I have to wonder, are those slightly more tertiary characters, are they going to be left around, or are they going to fall off of the worst analogy ever? Pizza.
Or are they? Yeah. Or are they going to become the full main character? Which is another possibility.
But I don't know. I don't see them going with Gwen Stacy, Spider Chick, as like the main Spider-Man.
As opposed to like Jessica Drew.
Oh no, like making Spider-Gwen, Spider-Woman, and just maybe that's possible. But no, I thought you meant like replacing Peter.
Oh no. Peter, you got to worry about. You have to think about whether or not they're going to use Peter Parker, or they're going to use
the clone.
No, the Ultimate Spider-Man.
Oh, the Black Kid?
Yeah.
I don't read the Ultimates comics very much, so
I knew his name like 3 hours ago. Yeah. But it depends on whether, and it looks like they're going to end up using Peter Parker.
Yeah.
And I was thinking maybe making him like Spider Kid or something like that.
Okay.
Where they have 2 Spider-Mans.
Wouldn't that mean he would have to eat Peter?
Yeah.
And I mean like snack on him, not in the weird gay porn kind of way.
Margolis? It's got a Hispanic sounding name.
Miles Morales.
Miles Morales, that's it.
Okay.
And he's a cool character. He's actually a really cool character. I don't read comic books on a regular basis anymore because they're too expensive. Yeah. And I can't find them at the grocery store anymore, right. So I can't just sit and flip through them.
Yeah.
So, and the only comic book store in my area is way out on the west side of Madison, and it's kind of a pain in the butt to get to.
Right. Do they still have that stuff at like Barnes and Nobles?
No, only DC. They've only got DC and
Really?
now. Yeah. Well, they've got like the graphic novels, but you know,
Wow, that's strange.
who's got time to flip through a graphic novel?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why they don't carry Marvel Comics as a Barnes & Noble anymore.
Probably signed an exclusivity deal with DC.
Possibly.
You know, or they're both owned by the same parent company. That's very possible.
DC might actually be selling better, so they decided to just
it's possible, but I
cut the space.
I don't see that.
Of course, they got like Jughead comics and stuff too, and they still don't have. It was the same thing at Woodman's. Woodman's used to have tons of Marvel stuff. So maybe they just had a Marvel dispute between the distributor and maybe the distributor that distributes to them had a problem with the
or Disney has a deal with certain distributors.
Yeah,
because I mean Disney owns Marvel now, so
yeah,
it could be some kind of strange thing like that. But we are starting to digress from the actual subject. So it's interesting, and I kind of thought Ultimate Universe was supposed to be the whole breaking away from the old Marvel to try some new, fresh things. So it seems a little strange that they're suddenly undoing that.
I think it's just kind of becoming unruly for them, having the two separate universes. So, I mean, I guess I would create overhead.
I guess, but again, you have to worry about, certain characters which hold a soft spot in your heart but may not be selling a butt ton of comics.
Mm-hmm.
What is to happen with Squirrel Girl?
Oh, I think she's become popular enough.
Just for being weird?
Yeah. I mean, just for being that character that everybody talks about because she's so off base.
Yeah. Or the Inhumans.
Well, the Humans are getting their own movie, so you know they're going to be sticking
around. Okay, like She-Hulk?
She-Hulk might be in trouble. Well, She-Hulk was always... Everybody talks about Deadpool being the
comedy
fourth
character.
The fourth wall breaker.
Right. But She-Hulk
that started in She-Hulk
hilarious.
Like 10 years before.
Yeah.
Deadpool started doing it.
Yeah.
So, I really like the old She-Hulk.
Oh yeah, no, I was a fan.
I used to read yours.
That was that was one of my monthly appointment comics. It was Uncanny X-Men, She-Hulk,
X-Force.
New Mutants. Excalibur.
New Mutants before they were the X-Force.
Yeah.
Yeah, Excalibur. Excalibur was a good comic.
It was great. It was good stories. It was really funny.
And they were like the Green Lanterns, where like they were the ones going around to the other universes.
Yeah.
At a time. And solving problems.
Yes. And they and I've always, the more we talk about this, I really realize I've had a lot of soft spot in my heart for Marvel because they're not afraid to be goofy.
Mm-hmm.
And
they do it intentionally, unlike DC, which
yeah.
Well, they're completely serious that it comes off so cheese and goof. Like like half their names are something man, or there's some other like language.
Yes.
They don't have any like straight up like superhero names like the Executioner or anything like that. It's always something man, something woman, or go bluga booga.
6 apostrophes. No vowels.
And
and somehow to get rid of him, you've got to pronounce his name backwards.
Yeah. What was that? Mixoplex?
Yeah. Just one of the dumbest goddamn villains ever.
Yeah, but I used to have a Superman serial album.
Okay.
Which was like a little 45.
Yeah.
And I used to play that all the time, and Mixoplex was the main villain on that.
Yeah.
So for a long time, I associated Superman with Mixoplex above any other villain.
Yeah. Well, do you remember the ones that I had? The Batman ones?
No.
Yeah, I had some Batman ones, and I thought Gorilla Grodd was a Batman villain for years, just because of that comic book album thing. Because he crashes the bat plane in a jungle like a dumbass, and ends up having to fight Gorilla Grodd.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really cool. Oh, super smart gorilla. And
I wish I still had that. Yeah. It was one of the albums that got melted in the trunk of Dan's car when he moved into with Rob.
Yeah.
He had all my albums in his trunk, and they sat out there in 104 degrees for like an entire day. And we got them out, and they were
warped and
it
almost lift the entire thing out as one chunk.
I had all the Black Sabbath. I had 4 Doors albums, 4 Zeppelin albums, a whole bunch of Pink Floyd. I had some Rolling Stones, Big Bamboo. Just tons of albums that were just I wish I still had them.
We're digressing again.
Yes, I'm sorry.
But
yeah, it's going to be weird, and it might actually, in spite of myself, I might actually have to pick up some comic books, or at least get the graphic novel versions of them.
Oh yeah, that's kind of how I read comics now. I will leave them to publish for a year or so, and then when they do the collector work, that's how I got all my Punisher Max comics. It's all the collected editions, because I'd rather pay $15-20 for that rather than get all the individual issues, because it's going to be cheaper getting the collected version.
Yeah.
It may not have any resale value, but unlike yourself, that's never really been an issue for me.
Yeah.
I've never been a speculator. I've never been in it to make money. I've always been in it for good stories and cool characters, and I've still got all my comics from back in the day, but they're just all in a plastic Walmart tote.
Yeah. Well, I've got all mine over there. We got to go through them because I want to put them in chronological order someday.
Yeah, in a retentive order.
Yeah, so that I can read them like I used to read them. What happens next? I gotta wait till next month. Darn. Or if it's the summer, I can read X-Men 2 a month.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean it's gonna be weird. I'm trepidatious about it because the whole, like I said, how much is this going to affect the history?
Right.
How much is it going to affect these characters? And is it going to end up being, basically like the movies where it's
Well, and I'm a little confused about the whole map thing.
Yeah. Well,
it's because it seems like they're putting the maps according to major storylines. So there's a Armor Wars section of the Battle World map, and so does that mean that all the characters involved in Armor Wars are not going to be involved in anything else on the rest of the map?
Yeah.
And what about Avengers stuff? What about Civil War? I mean,
Civil War was on there.
Well, but can you have Iron Man in the Armor Wars and have him in Civil War? Will there be 2 different Iron Men? Or will he go back and forth?
Yeah, because they were both 616. So they were both the same Iron Man.
Yeah, so that's kind of my question is how's it going to handle? I mean, are there going to be 15 copies of the same guy, depending on if he was involved in whatever storyline? I mean, sure, he's not going to be involved in House M section of the map because he wasn't involved in that story, but there's still Armor Wars and 50 different Avengers storylines that could be brought up. And are they going to do Fall of the Mutants? There's so many questions.
Yeah.
And
well, they didn't announce all the titles that were going to be involved.
No, they didn't, which is why I really have to ask the question.
Yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be weird. It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, I just really, really hope it doesn't end up being a mess.
Yeah. Well,
because it could get incredibly confusing.
And you look at the DC, and even with the New 52, the DC stuff is still kind of confusing because they got non-New 52 titles.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I guess time will tell. We'll wait and see.
Yeah. Well,
it gives us a reason to read, I guess.
Well, and it has got us talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, they've accomplished part one of what they needed to do in the first place.
Yeah.
And I'm interested enough to, move forward and, curious about seeing the rest of it.
Yeah. To be fair, though, I mean, people were talking about Marvel Comics thanks to the movies.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. And maybe us talking about the movies just isn't equating to sales in the comic book side. And maybe that's what's kind of got them going.
Possible.
And once again, maybe it would help them if they would actually try and find some way to get them into places other than mainstream comic book stores.
Well, and I was going to say that earlier when we were talking about it. You'd think that the movies, because the MCU is hugely popular now, so I can't imagine not wanting, if you're, a brick and mortar book distributor, I can't imagine not wanting to have those books. Because if nothing else, little kids are going to bug their parents because, they're going to want to see their guy in comics.
They've got them. They've got them in like the comic book stores. They're just not in places like Barnes and Noble, convenience stores, grocery stores, like they should be.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. I don't know what's happening with the distribution. I don't know what's going on.
The big price tag might be restrictive
to
that.
Like I said,
because 15 years ago when it was $1 a comic, I could see a parent going, yeah, all right, I can throw $1 just to get the kid to shut up.
They're like $4.50 a comic book now.
Yeah, no.
I mean,
again, why I wait for collected works before I read anything?
Yeah, we get.
And you've got to be something that I'm really interested in for me to go that far.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the last thing I really decidedly picked up was the Punisher Max comics.
Mm-hmm. And I almost wonder, I should go on the Marvel site and see how much their digital comics are costing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, hopefully it helps.
Yeah.
I miss comic books. I wish they would come down in price so it was easier to
afford to collect them again. Yeah, absolutely.
Because
and the other part of that is with like torrent sites now, you can get any of the comic books you want for free, and that might be hurting their distribution.
Yeah, it doesn't help. But once again, if they make things more affordable and more accessible, then people aren't going to feel the need to.
Yeah,
I do that route.
And maybe what you were saying earlier about, going back to less expensive materials, not glossy paper, but
that's when we saw the
old rough pulp comics.
That's when we saw the huge increase in price, and the art wasn't getting any better.
When Image started up, that was super glossy, super slick, and it was very nice art.
But they were using the same artists and the same art styles that Marvel had been going. Our comics are really pretty, to a point where once Claremont left, they were like, well, yeah, we don't really need writers anyway. We got pretty art.
Yeah, which is incredibly unfortunate because Claremont is like a mad genius.
Yeah. So, we had that art. It wasn't on the best paper, so, sometimes it could be grainy, sometimes the colors didn't quite work as well. But there's something to be said about that too. You know, I mean, it wasn't ugly by any scope of the imagination, but it wasn't. I think that the advantage is that it was less expensive, and you could afford to make more of them and get them out to the public, and kids could afford to buy them with their allowance.
Right. Yeah. Let's just lay out the truth. The 90s ended up being a nightmare time for comic books.
Oh, it was terrible.
Beyond, I say, 94, it just went all to hell.
Well, their heads got big. Oh, it's my computer. Okay. Their heads got big because everything was going great in the late 80s and early 90s. You know, up until like 92, 91, 92 is when they started to go to shit. I would go
out a little more 93, 94, but, you know, yeah, you're about right. Because the speculator market started ramping up.
They started making 500 different
chromium covers and, you know, sealed bags and special super crossover events, and it was just this constant flood of have to, and they were overproducing all of those comics. I mean, they tripled and quadrupled the runs of issues that they were putting out just so they could short run sell all of them to the idiot fucking speculators. But nobody was thinking about it in the long term, because suddenly those speculators 10 years later found themselves with rooms full of completely useless comic books.
Yeah, and at least I didn't get that
never going to resell.
At least I didn't get that bad.
Yeah.
I just had like 5 boxes.
Yeah.
And now I've got like 6.
You know, there were guys with, you know, rooms full of comics, and the comics became terrible. They became unreadable.
I still get Death of Superman comics sent to me from people. Hey Derek, we know you're into comic books. Here's some Death of Superman.
Yeah. And now maybe you could wallpaper a kid's bedroom in it or something, but that's about as useful as that's gonna be. You know,
and it's a shame. It's a shame. But
well, it is, and it was a huge event at the time. It was a big deal. I mean, people were, you know, all gaspy and shocked. Superman's dead.
Yeah.
You know, and
I don't like the way they killed him. But
and it worked for the comic book publishers.
Mm-hmm.
They sold a lot of issues. They also made a lot of issues.
Mm-hmm.
And
that resulted in a lot of issues.
And after that short run of the actual death of Superman, then it became more issues and more issues and more issues, because now there's 4 different Supermen, and we're doing divergent storylines with all of those guys.
And each one of those has 17 covers.
Yeah, and everybody just kind of lost interest in it.
Yeah,
pretty damn quickly.
Yeah, well, you know,
because they were all shitty characters.
If you want to know how to ruin a collector's market, make it a collector's market.
Yeah.
And that will ruin it.
Yeah.
Because everybody will go, oh, if we buy all these, someday they'll be worth tons of money. So then they go, well, in order to make them buy all these, we're going to have to print all these. And basically at that point, the person making the stuff is all of a sudden thinking they can print money.
Yeah.
And they do that until it crashes, which is usually about 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ty Beanie Baby collectors. Sorry. Any toy collector.
Oh.
Comic book collector.
Magic the Gathering.
House flippers.
Yeah, those poor fuckers.
Magic the Gathering is still actually...
No, Magic the Gathering is... But
that's because they limit what they do, and then they cut it. They cut it off after
right, but in the 90s, it was very much a cyclic market. They would do a 6-month run of one set of cards, and you absolutely positively had to get all those cards in order to be competitive. And then they would stop that, start the new run of comics.
Well, you didn't need all those cards. You needed 4 copies of the big cards.
But you
ended
up
going
buying
through all those
cases
other
and
cards,
cases and cases of them in order to be competitive with other people. And they would just keep cycling that, because the next one would be specifically designed to counteract all the shit you just bought. So then you had to buy this new shit to be competitive. I figured that out real quick and got the fuck out of Magic, man. I was like, hey, we are poor ass 20-somethings. We can't afford to sustain this. I'm out. I'm going to go back to role-playing games.
But now they've got fighting decks that you can just get those decks and they work well with each other. So if you just want to play the game, you can just get those decks without buying the other stuff and you can play well.
Right, because Wizards of the Coast figured out that wasn't a sustainable business model. And they wouldn't have changed it and shook it up. If they'd have kept doing what they were doing, they'd have strangled themselves. Well, that's enough for Marvel news and comic books and nostalgia and 6 or 8 different side tracks. Thanks for putting up with it, and we'll see you next week.
Toodles.
About that.
I can't do a Patrick Warburton.
I don't think you have to.
It's the Tick.
It's cool. What do they want for that?
$20.
Yeah, he's kind of discolored.
Yeah. It'd be cool if they had the Arthur to go with him.
Right.
Apparently he talks, although the battery's probably dead by now.
Wow. Why would you want a talking bobblehead of Sharon Osbourne? A reason to commit suicide? Seriously, who does that? That doll actually looks psychotic.